I felt really isolated in it, different. I don't know, I just felt like nobody was being themselves. You just start feeling like you're the only one that's struggling.
We can't really miss what happened yesterday regarding Totilas. Like, a lot of people were saying that they weren't really sad that he passed away because of what he stood for.
So you say there was controversy with the training methods.
Yes.
What training methods were used? From an outsider, I wouldn't look at the sport and think that is something that goes on.
With our sport, you don't see what goes on behind closed doors.
This episode is sponsored by Half Step Equestrian. Sweat-proof, durable, and made from the highest quality materials. This is a base layer you don't want to miss. Start feeling confident in your athletic attire and keep an eye out for the special deals and promotions only available on our website and social media feeds, halfstepequestrian.com. Welcome back to the Only Tools and Horses podcast. As you can tell, we're in a bit of a new space. May or may not have got kicked out of the old place. It may also have just been downstairs. Either way, we prefer this place a little bit better. So we're joined today by the one and only podcaster, YouTuber, dressage rider, and social media legend. 40,000, absolute balance. I love that. Olivia Towers, how are we doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited. It's a bit intimidating though, having two people interviewing you.
Especially when you can't see one of them as well.
Yeah,
so for everyone watching, Ash is out of frame for Olivia, so she's talking to a random.
Yeah, I'm the voice of reason.
But anyway, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously, you interviewed me. Must have been about 2 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something
that was
like that.
so fun.
And now we've flipped it round, roles reversed now.
The switch.
And I'm not sure if anyone who saw the podcast or if you haven't yet. At the end of the podcast, Olivia asked me how I would describe myself in 3 words, and it was really awkward at the time because I had my whole family there, and I was laughing, and I was like, I had things being said, and that was just because my dad described me as dickhead, arrogant, and a bit of a bellend, and I'm trying to be serious on your podcast, and that's how it's been described.
In fairness, he's not wrong.
Yeah, no, he's very much right, isn't he? Really. But anyway, lovely to have you on, and I guess we can't really miss what happened yesterday regarding Totilas. Like, really sad news, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was actually staying in a cabin, so I was like away from it all, and then I didn't realise, and it all just started popping up, but it was so sad. I guess because he hasn't been competing as well. Not that I'd forgotten about him, but you kind of move on, don't you, to the next big horse, and then you see that and you're like, you start remembering everything he did.
Yeah, which was like, he almost transformed dressage, didn't he?
So would you say, is Totilas
that trot with
like top? Would you regard him as like the top horse that's ever competed?
I think it's personal preference. For me personally, he was probably the reason why I fell in love with dressage. He was incredible. There was I think the big thing was, I don't know if you agree, Olivia, we hadn't seen anything like him before.
Yeah, definitely. It was, I think, where was it? Was it Windsor when he competed in the UK?
Yeah. And he did Olympia as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that was it. And everyone was just like, what is going? It was definitely like a different calibre of horse that came through. And I think then after that, they all started coming through, didn't they?
Yeah. It was almost the start of the next generation in a way. And like I say, for me personally, it was the reason why I fell in love with dressage. It was just out of this world, setting world record after world record. It was just something that no one had ever seen before. But I guess from that, what was quite funny, and I mentioned to Ash earlier, was that also you've seen a lot of people say how sad it is that we've lost Totilas, but there's also a lot of controversy that comes alongside that horse, and it kicked off again yesterday. So regarding that, I saw, there was. I got in an argument again.
Yeah, no,
funny enough.
This is the only bit I understand from that is the controversy that's been going on.
And yeah, it was going back to the training methods that were used on him, and the life that he lived. And a lot of people were saying that they weren't really sad that he passed away because of what he stood for. And yeah, I may have piped up and said, look, well, the horse was a once in a lifetime horse. You can't really not be sad about a horse passing away when you don't believe in someone's training methods. Like, for me personally, Edward Gull was the most amazing rider. Like, I know people will judge him off a few photos that were leaked at one point or another, but I think he's a beautiful rider. And like I said, some of the training methods used, they were happening before Totilas was on the stage competing. It was just because of social media that when he transformed the sport. it came to 4.
So what was the train? Was it the Edward? What was his name?
Edward Gull.
Edward Gull. Did he train Totilas, or was there a separate trainer and he just rode?
Yeah, he trained the horse and he took it all the way to Grand Prix.
Right. Okay, I'm with you.
Create all the world records and everything, and then he was sold for millions. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was like £7-8 million, wasn't it?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and then was sold to a guy called, was it Matthias Raff or something like that? I can't remember. A German rider.
That's it.
From the Schockenmollers, and then the amount of pressure to be competing a £6-7 million horse would have been next level.
So you said there was controversy with the training methods.
Yes.
What training methods were used? What is this controversy?
So I guess this is probably, I'll let Olivia discuss the difference between Britain and sort of European riders. I guess you're probably the pro to ask on this one.
Oh God, am I?
Yeah.
No, was it Rolker?
Yeah, Rolker was talked about,
The
and I guess
Yeah.
So what's Rolker?
So it's like hyperflexion of the neck.
Hyperflexion of the neck.
Yeah. So basically, you've got the reins, and the horse's head is in an outline in dressage. Rolker is where it basically the head goes too low and too round, too in, and it's illegal in the sport. So it's illegal in the warm up, obviously in a test, and then there were pictures taken when where it was a little bit close to that. But the problem is with a picture, it can be such a split second of a moment.
Yeah,
and that's, I think, is the tricky part with it.
So I the only bit of reading I've done on poor training methods and like ethics and around that, and actually I've had a little bit of a conversation with you about it as well, is barbed wire in the mouth.
Yeah, you hear about that all the time. Like,
is that an actual thing? Like, do people train horses like that?
Well, unfortunately, I guess you don't. With our sport, you don't see what goes on behind closed doors. So
I wouldn't have thought it from an outsider. I wouldn't look at the sport and think that is something that goes on.
Unfortunately,
that's the thing. The closed doors, you don't know, but there's so much talk, isn't there, about crazy stuff that happens on the grapevine about training methods. Like, I've heard crazy stuff about like them attaching bungees. They put like pins inside boots. I know that's more for the show jumpers. They use cattle prods. There's like loads of different things that go on. But again, you don't know, like, and that's just hearsay. I wouldn't say that I know particularly anyone that's done that.
Bullshit. Start calling them out, Olivia. Call them out.
No, genuinely, I don't.
But it's like, I think the debate that I get into quite a lot regarding this is that for an athlete to be an elite performer, you have to push yourself to limits that you've never seen before. For these top 0.1% of Grand Prix horses, where they are like game changers, like Vallegro and Totilas, the rider is going to be having to take the horse to levels that it wouldn't fundamentally do alone.
Right.
And that's when...
Not even the top lot. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Even an amateur riding would take their horse further than that horse would take itself.
Exactly.
Because you're training it, aren't you? You're making them more of an athlete than they would. It would be like, someone just sat on the sofa drinking a beer, eating pizza, and then someone getting a PT and them training them. Of course, like with PT, you're going to go further.
Yeah, exactly. Relentlessly, sort of every day. And that's when people can then like take advantage of that and do abuse it. I'm not saying everyone does, but you're trying to create something that may or may not be there.
Right.
And you're either doing that through natural horsemanship
or manipulating how you train the horse to see if it will then react in a
completely
more
I think
way.
The big problem that I've seen, like with the sport and people pushing horses too much, is where they have not got their minds in the right place, or their like ego gets in the way, or their insecurities get in the way, and they just don't know when to stop. And they put the competition stuff above the horse's welfare.
Yeah, and I think that, like you say, that's a good point regarding balance, because like you say, for a lot of people, they've got stress and pressure to achieve results from owners. So that's when the line gets dodgy, is when you've got all this amount of pressure, but you've got to somehow manage it with the horse's welfare.
So that's interesting. So leading on from that, going back on something you said that people are they're happy that, or not happy. Okay, rephrase it. They are not sad that Totilas died, because he represents a lot of bad shit.
Yeah.
So why the horse is a horse? Like, I'm pretty sure the horse was just born to be a horse. So surely it's not a case of people not being sad. Oh, the horse represented this. Is it not down to the people that train it? No, why are they not getting any shit?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, completely.
No,
but then again, like, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because again, like, you will never know what went on behind it, or what happened to Totilas. At the end of the day, a lot of what's come out, he was fed and looked after, enjoys some form of retirement, and that is a lot better than some horses. Yes, of course, he may have been able to have a better retirement, but at the same time, he still was looked after, so it wasn't too bad. But there has been, so, like you saw, me getting in an argument with American people yet again.
It doesn't matter where they're from. You just love a scrap, mate.
Yeah, exactly. About it all, because it created so much controversy.
Right. Okay.
At that time.
But doesn't the internet loves that? It just loves it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're going to find any tiny little thing regardless and run with it.
Exactly. And it's quite interesting, because this sort of leads on quite well to the article that Carl Hester done 2 weeks ago about social medias and ridings coming up now. Yeah, so brilliant for someone of his caliber speaking out on it, really.
Yeah, I was really happy about that.
Because I guess for you personally, obviously you've had a big social media following. You've did something no one else was doing at the time. You took yourself out of a comfort zone, and
I feel like we're speaking to an OG of like the equestrian social media
TV
adaptation of where it's going.
Oh, thanks. No, it definitely was. No one was doing it. That's why I was so shocked no one was doing it. I was like, we are seriously behind the times. And I was looking at like entrepreneurs and stuff. And like, I think it was Gary Vee was like one of the first people I started following. And I was like, why is no one doing it? Not that I'm like Gary Vee. I'm just, not that intense. But I was like, why is no one pushing that stuff, like talking like real stuff in the equestrian world? I was like, why are we all walking around pretending everything's okay? Because it's not.
No, I think that's one thing that I feel like I've learned over the last few months since we've been doing this, is there is a lot of things that go on behind scenes that people wouldn't expect. I mean, granted, before we got into doing what we're doing, I probably wouldn't look twice at equestrian, horse riding, all of that. But it is fascinating. Like, the more I've gone into it and the more I've learned, it blows my mind. I come to Josh every so often. I'm like, so what does this mean? Is this the right terminology for that? But there also, with all of that good, there is a lot of dark sides to the industry that I've come to learn, especially off camera with different people, about stories and situations and things they've witnessed. And it's just bizarre. And how, to the size of the industry that it is, how these things are going on. And I am sort of dancing around it, because I'm not going to go straight in and get ourselves cancelled too early on. However, how, to the size of the industry it is with these things going on, how it has not been made more public baffles me.
Yeah, there's so many different sides though, isn't there? Like, for me, obviously, the thing I talk about is the mindset side, and the mental health side of it is probably where I steer more into. But I definitely see the other stuff that goes on.
And I guess, like, so you talk about how that you created the podcast to talk about these things because, again, like you said, you felt there wasn't much being spoken about at the time. So for you to get there, what experiences did you have that led you to go, you know what, right, I'm going to be different to everyone else. I'm going to go and do something and try and talk about things that I'm struggling about and try and make a difference, because that is what you've done. You've put your face out to a huge audience of people. And as we know,
it's paid off. It's paid off massively.
Yeah, absolutely. But as we both know, you get a lot of love, but you also get a lot of hate. And I can imagine being the first, like the game changer, really, that you experienced probably a lot of looks in your direction, like, what is she doing? Because as we know, the equestrian world does not like change.
Oh yeah, madness. It was hilarious. I remember I used to go around shows vlogging, and people would just be looking at me like, what is she doing? But I was actually talking to the guy who helped me with changing my mindset around last Wednesday. We did a podcast together, and I was like, what do you think my biggest strength is? And he's like, that you're a rebel. And I was like, what? I was like, how's that a strength? And he's like, no, like, you are rebellious, and that's great because you go against the norm, and that's why you can push forward. So I think when I was younger, that rebellion, I steered it in the wrong direction.
Was you a bit of a trouble child?
No, wasn't it? Well, I don't think I was, but actually, you know, at like so I left home at 16, and then I was kind of like out in the world, and 16 to like 22, I was pretty wild. Like, we spoke about this, didn't we, Josh? How we kind of went the wrong way, and I was definitely rebellious. My mum said that me and my brother were quite difficult, which I just thought everyone was doing it. I thought everyone was like, went through the like taking drugs stage, and, you know, the like going out partying stage. I was like, that's normal, right? And then she's like, no, you know, like, you don't have to be that rebellious. And I think as well, I was always a bit rebellious against what everyone thought I should be, coming from like a privileged background. Like, I had to walk around being like, la, 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 you know, like dressing a certain way, being a certain way. And so I always used to really struggle with being like put into a box. I was like, don't put me in a box, because I'll just go the other way. So in the dressage world, I guess it was the same thing. I felt really isolated in it, and different, and I don't know, I just felt like nobody was being themselves. And I was like, why do we all have to be like this? It's so tiring, so exhausting. And then I think that's when the mindset stuff kicks in, is you just start feeling like you're the only one that's struggling with self-doubt. You're the only one that's struggling with like a bad show. And you start to feel more and more isolated, more and more alone. So I just got to the point where I was like, screw it. I knew people were thinking this because I'd spoken to them at shows. So I was like, right, let's start talking to people and get it out there. And that's kind of how it developed, I guess.
Did you ever see it getting this far?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like 100%. And when people say that, like, I imagined it getting further. Right. Probably, I mean, I think when I first started, I was more ambitious than I am now with it. Okay. I wanted like not world domination. I wanted to literally dominate the equestrian world. I wanted to be, that was my goal, to be the biggest equestrian influencer in the world. What I started to realize though was, one, if you're not male and you don't, you know, take your top off and you're like, wait, takes a little bit longer. I'm not kidding.
You literally just called out Josh. Literally. I love it.
No, it's
my one selling point. There we go.
He's got tats and tits. This makes Josh on a team.
And chats a bit of shit now and again.
Yeah.
It's so true. And then also, like, you had to go away with the equestrian influencer of like, almost, I don't know, the things people want to see is not necessarily what they need. So what I mean by that is, people love looking at yard tours and lorry tours and like matchy sets. They don't want to hear, let's talk about your self-doubt or why you're struggling with this, because it's uncomfortable. So I think I figured out, yes, it's needed, but it's also not as wanted, if that makes sense. So it was going to take longer to grow, because I almost have to, the lucky thing is, like, I have different sides to my personality, so I can sort of draw people in with a bit of humor, a bit of whatever, and then I suddenly go, oh, let's talk about this, and they feel like more ready because they know me, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like they have to trust me, and then they go, right, okay, let's talk about the deeper stuff.
Seducing them.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely put it in that sense.
In a way. But do
you feel that since speaking with the amount of people you've spoken to and given them that platform to discuss things they might not necessarily be comfortable talking about within the industry, have you seen a real positive reaction from them, especially on and off camera? Have they made and implemented changes to their outlook of how they go about their career?
I think the hard thing is I've almost hit like a ceiling with it, in the fact I need to be a little bit braver and push for almost the riders that are really at the top of the sport. I'm slightly scared to go there, because it's just part of me that I know that they don't like opening up about it, and I'm like scared to push them. And especially when you've looked up to these people for a while, you're like, I don't want to be the one to ask them that question, but maybe that is the position I've been put in, and I need to kind of man up and get on with it. But the people I've just like had podcasts with and discussed things with, definitely they say that they're happy, they've spoken about it, and it's making a positive change, which is so cool. I want to make it more like for everyone, not just like Josh, you'll understand what I mean, like our age level, like I feel I can talk to all of us really easily, and they're really open. Whereas when they're older, I don't know if it's because they're not used to the social media, but like Dane Rawlings was a different character, isn't he? Like I could speak to him.
He, I would say, I've got to say Dane and Anna Ross.
Yeah.
For me, those people are people I look up to and have so much respect for, because they say it how it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like the older generation seem to have settled for what the industry is and don't like change. So when people call things out or say things should be in a different way, or let's change this, they don't like it. And then you get called
Go on, just throw a couple of names that people call you on a regular basis.
Well, where do I start? Start at home with dad, with a dickhead. But you get called selfish, that you had so many different opportunities and all different kinds of things. But it's like anything. For me, and I keep on having to say this, and I've said this so many freaking times, it's about sport evolving. If it stays the same, it's going to die. People need support coming through this industry. Otherwise, people won't do it. And the thing was, 30 years ago, they didn't have social media. They didn't have all the stress and pressure that we have now. So no wonder all the riders our age are going, you know what, guys, we need a little bit of help down there. And then we get called,
it kicked off, didn't it?
Yeah, freaking hell.
Is it kicked off?
Yeah, do you remember like all that Facebook post where everyone's going in?
Oh, yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
loved it.
See, when I was up at Keso High Profile, which was last week or 2 weeks ago, I texted Ash and I was like, mate, half these people are going to hate me. I was like, may not come back alive. I pissed them all off.
No, the hard thing is, though, when I speak to my mum about this, and my mum hates how close to the bone I get with things, she said, you do realise a lot of people that you annoy are going to judge you. And I'm like, no, like literally judge you. Like I'll ride down the centre line. And I have annoyed some of the top judges. Like I know I have. And it reflects in your mark. Like you can't get away from that. No. That dressage is, what's the word? It's someone's opinion.
Yeah.
Perspective.
That's it. Like you can't get away from that. So if you annoy the people who are going to judge you, you're going to get a lower mark. Which is
I think it was Annie was briefly talking about that when we spoke to her, that for instance, if you was to come across someone and you wound them up, like subconsciously that will affect your mark, like if they don't like you.
And they might be subconscious. They might not go, I'm going to give her a 6 because I think she's stupid the way she talks on social media. They might just subconsciously have a grudge against you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you find that sometimes works in the complete opposite way, that people go, oh my God, it's Olivia Towers, amazing podcaster, 10? Is that the right way of scoring?
I wish it did. Right? It doesn't. It never has with the judges. I mean, some have said they really like what I do, but like so many of the judges don't understand it because they don't understand social media, which is fine. But it's, it's common knowledge. Judges are a lot older.
Is there a judge that's under 30?
I couldn't name one.
I know Sarah J. Nanning, but she's not under 30, but she's the younger one I could think of. Richard Baldwin, he's not very old, is he?
You got Leanne Wall as well. She's not very old.
Yeah.
But it's a rare breed, because I guess for people like myself and Olivia who are in the sport, I couldn't think of anything worse. I think it's a load of shit.
Well, being a judge?
Yeah.
Oh, why? Yeah, well, to be fair, that was another thing we talked about.
Why would you do it?
They don't get paid, they do it out of the love for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got so much respect for people that do that. Yeah. But again, unless British Dressage change the system, it's got to be down to young riders coming through that are eventually going to have to be judges. But
how do you apply to be a judge?
You literally just through British Dressage, you can. I am actually a listed judge. I think like the bottom tier.
Shut up.
No, on my life,
Shut
mate.
up.
On my life.
Are you hearing this?
Josh is a listed judge.
If you want to ruin the sport any quicker, just fucking put him behind a desk with some scorecards. Mate, if they can list you as a judge, I'm a fucking given.
Mate, they're desperate. I tell you, they're desperate. Oh dear.
Oh dear. But yeah.
So where do you see you going next with everything? So because you've got so much going on with
I know.
doing the podcast.
Yeah, you were doing a game review the other day, weren't you?
Yeah,
That looks so sick. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not sure if you saw that, Ash. It's like a
I think I've seen
Equestrian.
it. Yeah.
Equestrian game that's come out on was it on iPhone and iPad or something?
So it's you can get it on Android or iPhone. Yeah.
Why do I feel like this is going to be an actual YouTube video, isn't it? You're going to make me sit down and play a equestrian game for a YouTube video.
But like I guess one of these things like that stated there, you've had so many different opportunities come your way because you've stepped out into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it outweighed, I guess, because like you say, it's had some negative effect to your riding career because you said you've done things that are perceived as controversial, which aren't really controversial because they're what everyone is thinking, but perceived by the older generation as controversial. It's affected your riding, but then you've had other opportunities outside of the riding. Like, where is that balancing at? Because again, I've found it hard as well. Like that balancing act before. Because you've got a fine line. You don't want to ruin your career completely.
It sounds very snowflakey.
Yeah, it is.
It's very difficult. It is very difficult, and you're constantly walking on a line. I think I was almost bolder at the start than I probably am now. But I mean, I think the thing is, I've kind of said a lot of things, so I don't get too scared now with coming out with it. I feel like it's mostly been received well. But you're never going to stop that, are you, people kicking off? And I just think that, when you're lying on your deathbed, are you going to be sat there going, oh, no, that person hated when I did that? Or are you going to go, oh, my goodness, I changed that little girl's life, or I impacted that person to carry on riding, or I gave that person confidence? So I guess, kind of the good outweighs the bad easily. But it does cause hurt when you get comments on social media. It's like, it is really tough. And I almost have to, sometimes if I'm at the end of my TED, I'll have to take a week off social media and just I think it was when I tried some trick riding and people were kicking off that I didn't wear a hat, even though you're not meant to. And I had to take a week off. And it's just sometimes you get worn down, small little things. And then
it's a drug, isn't it? Social media is a drug.
Well, it
is. Simple. It's not good.
Well,
it's not good.
They based social media like Instagram. If you go on your home feed and you refresh it, that was designed off of the same principle of slots in Vegas, just pulling the slot machine down. Because even though it's that idea that you don't know what you're going to get next, so that
you've seen
subconscious
dilemma.
That is literally where I've got that bit of information from.
Mental.
It was it blew my mind.
Scary is what it is. It's actually scary how much.
The sad fact is, if I didn't work on social media, I think I would not be on it. If I didn't have a thing to do on social media, a vision, even though I use it for good, I don't think I'd be on it.
I was saying this to Ash. I hate it.
It's weird though that we use it to influence people in a positive way, but alongside that, you think, how often are you getting sold to? How many ads do you see? How many times?
Sorry, guys, that's us. Half step. Sorry.
No. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get you.
But comparing yourself to people,
it's that double-edged sword. It is that double-edged sword where we use it to motivate people and for a positive outlook on life. But at the same time, we do that for others at the own detriment of our own health. And I enjoy social media. I also absolutely hate it at the same time. It's interesting how it actually can affect relationships and people around you.
So big.
Because you just zone into it. It's like me, like I need to come off it. I can't try to come off it in the evenings.
Especially. I said like the good outweighs the bad. Thinking about it though, last year I pushed myself so hard with riding, social media, business, work. I mean, like I was like an absolute machine. I did the thing called the 5 a.m. club. I'd wake up at 5, smash out a workout, do some reading, do some journaling, then start the horses, then get onto the business stuff, finished work at like 7 o'clock at night. And I was so intense and so go. I actually I properly burnt myself out. And it's the most horrible feeling because you've been so productive. And I remember sitting in my friend's living room and she's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I just keep crying all the time and I don't know why." And she was like, "Well, that's not normal.
That's not great.
You shouldn't just be crying all the time." I said, "I really don't know what's going on." I said, "I'm so annoyed with emotions because they get in my way and it makes me less productive." And she's like, and I was like, "Why can't I just be like a robot and then I'd be more productive?" She's like, "Because that's not living." And basically just like it all just came out. I was just like, I had a break, like a proper breakdown. I couldn't ride. I remember I was trying to film because I wanted to start OTD TV, which was just like tutorials for people. And I was trying to film it and the bit like you guys, the cameras are all there. It's all intense. It's like, right, come on, perform. And I just like sat there and just cried. And I just lost the shit. Like I lost everything. And it was so weird. And I couldn't do anything. I for weeks, I just sat there. I did the bare minimum. Like I got up, I mucked out, but I couldn't do anything. And I'd literally broken myself. And it took me months to get over this. It was basically situational depression I'd put myself into because I worked too hard. And then from that, I got really bad social anxiety, like really bad. And I got to the point where I just couldn't even walk down the street. I couldn't go into Tesco's. I couldn't get fuel. I was so like, I don't know. I think I had denied myself my emotions for so long because I was work. And then
it was almost overwhelming.
Yeah. But then I let the emotions in and it was like an explosion of like horrendous. And I just got to the point where I was so scared for anyone to even look at me. And I'm like, being a social media influencer, we were flying around flying around the world with the FBI filming. And I had to go and do a meet and greet. And it was with like Matt Harneke, Sonka Rothenberg, This Esme, like all the big names.
Yeah, no one special, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Means absolutely nothing to me.
They're big people. It was for where were we? It was one of those famous watches.
Rolex, wasn't it?
No, other one.
No?
What's the other one?
I know who you mean as well.
What are they called?
They sponsor like the eventing or something, don't they?
They sponsor the Dressage. Anyway, fancy watch brand. We were at their stall and there was like security guards and like 200 people. And I'm sat on this little stall with my mic, like checking where the exits are, thinking, okay, if I'm sick, where can I run off to be sick? Like I was just horrendous. And all I'm thinking about is trying to escape. And like people just don't see that. And I got myself in such a stew. The fact that when we flew home, I was in the airport and I basically just lost it again. Tried to run out the airport, was like trying to get out the exits. And my mum's like having to like pin me down because I'm in an airport. And yeah, I lost it. And I think since then I've realised nothing is worth like my health, like my mental health and my physical health. So that's probably why I stopped pushing myself as hard.
I think it is definitely that pendulum motion.
Oh, it's horrendous.
What goes one way will automatically swing the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And we found it as well. We use our downtime is us and our fitness and going to the gym.
Yeah.
But even still, that's you need to be able to give yourself some physical and mental relaxation. But we've got a friend of ours who works quite high up in the business world, and we was ironically discussing him today. And at one point, he was working himself so hard back and forth to meetings
that he collapsed. And
really? I mean, he's a big guy. Like you'd think he was Superman. So you don't expect it, but it can happen to anyone. We are all human. and you need
Yeah.
to give yourself that downtime.
My problem was, and I don't know if you guys feel this, it'll be interesting because you're men, of talking to you about, like the motivational speakers and the entrepreneurs. There's almost this masculine side, and it was who I was originally following, like Gary Vee, Eric Thomas, like all those guys. Maybe not so much Eric Thomas, but Gary Vee definitely. Of like, sleep when you're dead, keep working, push. And I followed that so much. But actually, like, I don't know, I find that there's one side of the motivational speakers that almost go, don't live, just work. If you want it, go get it. Fine. Like, you do you. And then there's another one, which is a little bit more like wholesome living, And I think I followed the first one I'm talking about. I followed that so intensely. And I just couldn't uphold it. I don't know how people do it.
No,
I have like families and stuff and friends.
Yeah, I think it comes back to balancing what works for you as well. It's like anything, a gym program will work for one, but it won't work for another. So like you say, for those guys, it might be like you hear The Rock, don't use Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there's the levels of what people work at. I think you have to find what works for you. And also there's also a level that you've got to find what doesn't. If you do too little and go, this does work for me, but is it achieving enough? It's that sweet spot. We work quite well, working quite at a high intensity. I mean, we're working 15 hours days
24/7. We have an online business, mate.
Well, that's the thing with e-commerce. Like, we sell internationally 24/7. If shit goes wrong at 3 a.m, we're up at 3 a.m. And then on top of all of that, Josh still has horses that he's got to go.
Yeah, see, that's what I find interesting, because I came to a point where I went, I'm sacrificing becoming a good athlete for the other side of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? And then I went, nah, I don't want to do, like, I hit this point where I think I could have gone all in the business side and smashed it, but I would have lost my skill.
Yeah.
I lost it all, but it would not have been as good, because you look at all the top athletes, they're not doing that.
No.
They're just not.
No, I think you've got to pick one. I think in order, you've got to come down to go, do you want to be a social media influencer, a motivational speaker, and put a change in the industry? Or do you want to be an athlete? Because I don't.
So
hard.
I've
learned, you can't.
Exactly.
You can't do both.
No, how I've managed to subsidize it is where I used to teach and ride for other people. I have my competition horses. That's that. And instead of teaching, doing clinics, riding for other people, don't do that anymore. And that's where I find the time for business. That's the only way that I had to do it, because, and also fun. It's actually worked in reverse for me. It's actually improved my riding because I'm not having to ride so much.
That's so, it's a different way of thinking though, isn't it? Because again, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have even imagined a professional dressage rider doing that. Or I was never told about it. I was never, it was, you have to teach, or you have to ride, or you have to sell horses. Done. Go sort it out. Not, you can do this, or you can run a business on the side. And like you're saying, it actually frees up more time if you make it work for you.
And I think that goes back to exactly what we were saying. It's what works for you as a person. For me, it's remotivated me with my riding, not doing it so much, because going back to what you were saying, when you do it so much and so frequently, you just lose the love for it as well. That's the thing. It becomes routine rather than the reason you initially started it for.
I think that's half of the point in the branding of Half Step, in which we've done, is the brand is for the people, because in our own personal lives, especially relating it with the question, especially with Josh, the things that you've had to go through, the little people get forgotten about. So we've created a brand that supports people coming from the bottom. We will always back the underdog. And on top of that, we will design the products that will make you the best athlete and person you can be. It's not just about the product, it's about you putting on something and feeling, I represent an ethos of change. And that is the difference which we're trying to install.
And you guys definitely found like a gap in the market, and that's I think what a lot of people don't do. They sort of go, I really like what they're doing, I'm going to copy it. Whereas you guys are passionate about that. You saw that it was missing. So Good.
I mean, it's been incredible, some of the reviews we've had come back. In all honesty, they come back, they're like, it's better than Nike. I'm like, I know, but to hear other people saying that about your product is
I'm
like...
I'm biased.
I am biased. When other people say it, I'm like, damn. They're like,
Turns out it was me doing the reviews, mate.
yeah, exactly. You're just like setting up fake accounts, just messaging me. But it's mental when people have actually bought our stuff and they've done it or used it for riding. But we've always said, like, this is multi-purpose. Like, it's so good that you can use it for whatever. And like, my dad goes and plays golf in it, and he's like, it's perfect for golf. We gym in it half the time, and you ride in it when you're not gymming in it. So we're lucky with what we've got, and we've managed to create. We've got a few things that we will keep tucked away for the time being, but there are a few things we've got in the pipeline that are quite unique to the industry, which I don't know what impact it will have. Josh knows how the impact it will have. And,
a failed riding career in my end, mate. That's what I have. But yeah, like you say, it's all about taking that initiative and jumping into something and trying to give it a go. And it's why I love doing the interview with you last couple of weeks ago.
I listened to it and it was an amazing interview. I even messaged Olivia afterwards. I was like, I've just finished listening to it. It was really, really good.
And that's from a guy that doesn't even like horses. But it's nice to be able to talk to someone that you can sort of relate to, because if you talk to someone that just does business, they don't understand the horse side of things. And if you speak to people that ride and just ride, they don't understand the business side of things. It's such a hard sort of leap. And the pressures that you've sort of overcome, like last year, wow, like that's inspirational. And I think hopefully for a lot of people to hear, because it's so easy to judge on social media and go, oh, you always look so happy, you know. I would never have realized that you had those struggles that you did last year. So it's nice again for people to hear, like, although we make the effort to try and help on social media, there's a negative effect for us trying to do that.
At the end of the day, it comes back to everyone's human. Like you may be speaking for the people and trying to motivate them, but you sell the weight of their negativity to your soul, and you bear that, and that's a difficult thing to carry.
Yeah, there's sacrifice in everything though, isn't there? Like everything you do, you have to sacrifice something, like whether that's time, energy. And it does have, what was it? There's a saying, isn't there? With great responsibility. With great responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility. Best Spider-Man.
Tobey Maguire. It's not Spider-Man.
Is it Spider-Man? It's Spider-Man. That was the first Spider-Man, and he was sitting. It's the end scene, and he's at the graveyard, and then walks around. No, it was Uncle Ben.
Something so intense, like, you know, like a poet's made it or something, and it's that bloody Spider-Man.
Yeah, Uncle Ben said that to Tobey Maguire.
Oh shit! I've been caught out.
That you're an absolute nerd, mate.
No, I just know a thing or two. So I don't know much about horses, but
Spider-Man on the other hand.
So funny. But anyway, like with that, it's so true. It's so true. And I think so many people want that, don't they? They want the big following. They want everything. And I was having this conversation with Theo last Wednesday when we first started the social media thing, and I said, help me grow a following. And he was like, I need to check your character. And I was like, calm down. And he's like, no, genuinely need to check you can take this, because it's huge. And you see it, don't you? So many people who rise to fame quickly, like Love Island, for example, they cannot hack it.
Yeah.
Like they can't hack like the attention and the people and the pressure. And it's
Muggy
bad,
Mike.
isn't it?
Yeah, the fact you called him Muggy Mike, but this is the thing though. Like you subconsciously don't realise you're doing it because
really
it's
bad
a trend.
And horrible. But
but no, it's not horrible of you. But it is that thing with society that people tend to forget. He goes on, he acts like a bit of a lad, bit of a dick, gets the name Muggy Mike, and then all of a sudden, like, it doesn't hurt me to call him Muggy Mike, but then the minute he comes out, could you imagine, like, yes, you're my mate, you are a bit of a dickhead. And it is, we laugh about it, but if you was getting called that all the time, every time you open social media, that's one small comment is overwhelming. Yeah. And it's the same as the majority of it. Too much of anything is bad. And that level is people don't aren't horrible people, but they don't realize that they are adding
fuel to
the fire.
Mm-hmm. So true. Takes one just to tip someone over the edge. That's a sad thing.
But how do you gauge your character and say, yeah, you're ready for that?
Well, he's very good at reading people, and he basically realized, well, she's got so much about her, so much like fire and passion, but she doubts herself so much. So he actually, and I spoke about this, I was like, why did you do this? He actually helped me with it so much. Like, we used to text every single day. If I had a problem, I could message him. He helped me with my self-development. He sent me books. He gave me advice. We'd be on the phone for like hours. It's like, why did you invest so much time when I wasn't paying you for that? And he said, because I just kind of felt like I wanted to pass it on to someone. And he said, I saw it in you. And because we're both Christians as well, he felt like that was God's thing, and that he wanted, like, he was kind of put in my path for that reason. And now he sees how much I help people. He's like, that's enough for me. Because I always say, like, how am I meant to repay you? Like, you do so much for me. And he was like, no, you helping other people is repaying me. And he's like, you're just passing it on. And that's the incredible thing, isn't it? You learn from someone and you pass that on, and it should just keep going like that. But yeah, he said you weren't ready. So he kind of helped me get ready. And then when I struggled, he would be there to kind of pick me up. And it sounds really nice, doesn't it, and all like magical, but he pushed me so hard outside my comfort zone. It wasn't like pretty or comfy, and there were times where I literally hated him, but honestly, genuinely, but he just pushed me outside my comfort zone and made me better. And yeah, it was just great.
It's amazing how much a mentor can impact you.
Yeah,
and how you obviously had a special connection, and that's what led to almost create you and make you as a person, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's intense.
And in a way, relating it back to like what we were talking about, the youth program and stuff, that's what we're sort of talking about, is that mentorship that sort of needs to be there in the dressage industry to help people, because you were so lucky to have that mentorship and find someone. I've been lucky, I've been able to find a mentor for myself. But if you don't have a mentor, it's hard, because where can you gain all this knowledge and have someone there to sort of fall back on when you need them? Yeah.
And it's that giving, isn't it? I think so many people aren't willing. I understand why. It takes so much energy. It's a relationship at the end of the day, though, isn't it? And you have to really that relationship. And, you know, I think I read somewhere, it's like, you can't put a timer on people. You can on a task, but not on people. So say you're like, I need to do this phone call with someone. You can't say I've got half an hour to get my point across. It could take 3 hours. And that's the same thing with someone. I think for the mentors, that's where it's difficult. You can't say, I'm going to mentor you this amount of time per week, because that person might need more. And I think that's the tough thing, is where do you find the time for that, especially with dressage riders or the equestrian world?
Well, I've got to say, Olivia, this was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
I've learned a lot.
We could carry on for hours.
No, I definitely think when we say it to a lot of people that we want to re-speak, we do, but out of all people, I'd be absolutely fascinated to, when we can, get you in person, have a few drinks.
Hopefully at a competition next year.
As long as I can move a bit, because I did one with Theo last Wednesday and I get so scared having just to sit there. Like, I have to like be able to just like, I don't know, give me some blue tack.
You can move. We tend to move. Our producers don't really like it, but we still do it.
They'll hate me. They'll be like,
Charles is shaking his head in the background.
No, it'd be amazing. We'll get you down, and we'll continue the chat going on. One thing we do want to mention is this week we signed our first half-step athlete, Harrison Chart, which we announced on our social media pages.
Yeah, big up Harrison.
So if you're not following our social media pages, you won't understand what's going on. So you're missing out. You need to go and follow the socials.
And also we'll link check out socials. Olivia as well.
Absolutely. They'll be all in the descriptions. And once again, Olivia, this has been amazing, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Peace.